2:37. Merry Christmas to you from everybody here at KARN, of course, from me, sure from the congressman. And Congressman Tim Griffin's here from District 2. And let's talk further about that whole Defense Authorization Act, because there's so many people, I believe, who've read a lot into it. It's not there, but they've read into it. I mean, I defend. When was it that we had the Youth Council on panel on? A couple of weeks ago, Scott? And we got talking about it. And a lot of the things that you all are talking about, they used during the Revolutionary War.
Well, and let me just say this. The foundation for what's in this statute is the Supreme Court's decision, which is already the law of the land. In any event, there's these two sections, 1021, right. 1022. I went through 1022, and I'll get to 1021 in a second, but I just want to sort of say that what we have tried to do is, and we say this in all areas of the law, is when there's a bunch of different court cases or there's clear law in the court case from the Supreme Court or whatever, instead of just leaving it out there, we try to. It's best if the Congress takes that, puts it into law, and clarifies it for the Army and for all the folks fighting the war on terror. What these provisions generally do, they don't create anything new. They just reflect, for example, the Hamdi case from 2004. That was a case where a U.S. citizen had been captured overseas on the battlefield. And the military was holding this guy because he was fighting against the U.S. And the court held that the military could hold a U.S. citizen on U.S. soil if they were caught overseas fighting for Al-Qaeda or Taliban or whatever. But they had to give them the right to challenge the fact that they're being held through habeas corpus petition, which is what the Constitution provides, right, in front of a federal judge, a federal civilian judge. Okay? So that's what that case held. Nothing in this 1021, nothing in it changes that. Nothing. In fact, there's a provision, 1021E, that says, quote, nothing in this section shall be construed to affect existing law or authorities relating to the detention of U.S. citizens, lawful resident aliens of the United States, or any other persons who are captured or arrested in the United States. Nothing in here changes the law. This reflects the law as it was in the Hamdi case and the Padilla case and some other cases. So I will spare a lot of the details here, but I'll just say a couple things. If you go to my Facebook page, facebook.com/rep, R-E-P, Tim Griffin, you have to go down a ways because I think it was – actually, if you go to my notes, you can see it. It's a note. I've got a note called Clearing Up the Myths and Misinformation of Detainee Language in the NDAA. And I didn't just write this on a whim because I was bored. I sat down with the counsel from the House Armed Services Committee, and we walked through it because I told her. I said, I have constituents who are very concerned. They are tweeting and Twittering and Facebooking and texting and emailing, and a lot of them are my friends. Mm-hmm. And I want to intelligently address their concerns. So I sat down, we put this together, and I'm finishing up an op-ed today, which will be on dailycaller.com in the next couple of days. And if someone really still has problems, call my office. I will meet with you and happy to discuss.
All right. Got to say, you can't ask for much more than that.
I'm going to give my cell phone out here. This is probably a first. And I would tell people that, number one, I always return calls and every call. And you can certainly use it to text. Obviously, no prank calls. I'm not going to return those. But if you are having difficulty getting me through my office, if you've tried my office and the phone's been busy or whatever. I had somebody call me today and couldn't find the number. They had my cell number, but they didn't have my other number. But if there's some reason that you want to get a hold of me personally, my cell phone that I carry on me is 501-837-5190. And I just ask people to use that sparingly so I can keep up. Otherwise, it'll be so blown up that I can't keep up. But if there's, what I tell people is I don't want to hear from third parties that they couldn't get my staff, or that my staff didn't do this or I didn't do that. If there's a complaint, call me directly, and I will fix it. I will fix it. I don't ask you to agree with me on everything. I do my best to represent the whole district because I have a lot of different constituents of different views. But the one thing that I can promise is that I will be the most accessible, continue to be, and have been the most accessible congressman that you will find. So keep that cell phone handy, and I'm happy to respond.
All right. Congressman, I guess let me just make this a question that's broad and general. Tell the constituents here in the 2nd District about how you feel the House should do battle with the EPA, who is now redefining sustainability, who seems to be taking the UN Agenda 21 and ICLEI and all the rest of it under their wings to bring it to the United States.
Well, first of all, that I will tell you that, and I don't have the exact number in front of me, but we have voted over 900 times in the House this year. And I think it's getting close to 1,000 times in the House in 12 months. And a lot of those votes deal directly with the growing problem of the EPA. And I'll be real clear. We're always going to have regulation. I'm not anti-regulation. What I'm anti is excessive, overly burdensome regulation that crushes job creators and doesn't really bring any common sense or reason to the table. And we had a great jobs conference that talked about this. We brought in all different folks from the private sector, and it was unbelievable the number of them that said the EPA just won't listen to us in terms of how long or how much money it's going to cost to implement changes and to do what they're doing. It's going to put us out of business. It's going to shut down some energy power plants. So we've been dealing with the EPA all year, and it ranges from boiler MAC regulations, which is regulation of boilers that are in buildings and factories and what have you, to farm dust. I mean, you name it. What are the tools we have? Well, we can certainly introduce bills. I've introduced a bill that would freeze all major regulations until the next president's sworn in, to just give people a time to take a deep breath and figure out, to have a little certainty. We can introduce bills. We can pass bills out of the House. What happens to them? They almost inevitably go over to the Senate where they just sit. They just die. So that is a way to drive the conversation and get people informed, but it hasn't been real effective. Hadn't been effective at all in terms of changing the law. Because if it's going to die in the Senate, it's dead. So what other tools do we have? Well, funding. We have the funding mechanism, and we have passed appropriations bills and then negotiated for things in conference regarding the EPA. But our biggest, most effective tool is to have hearings and bring the EPA director, administrator, in front of Congress and ask her point blank about a lot of these different things, these regulations and what have you, to write letters and to inform people so they can weigh in. The most impact that folks have had on the EPA has come from folks like the Farm Bureau and talk radio and people informing citizens of what's going on these different regulations. I know Senator Bozeman was here not long ago. He might have talked about farm dust.
Yes.
it's a big deal for farmers.
Sure,
it's a big deal for job creators. Bollerman Act is huge. There are a lot of unions who have written me and agree with me. One union in particular met with me in my office here and handed me a letter, and it said, we have got to deal with Bollerman Act because these are going to absolutely they're going to stifle our ability to invest, to create jobs because of the regulations that are going to put on companies like Green Bay Packing right outside of Morrilton and a lot of other job creators in the district. So, the EPA doesn't regulate some far-off place. They are impacting job creators here. No one I know is anti-regulation. They just want some reason in them. They want some common sense. And I would say that the battle against this nonsense has to be through the legislative process, but the most effective way is this right here. Talking, getting people informed, and getting them to write letters and get involved. There is no magic wand. You can't just go, oh, well, the EPA is issuing that. Well, I'll just wave this magic wand, and that'll stop. Until we get a different differently composed Senate and a different person in the White House, I think you're going to continue to have this problem. And getting information out is the best way to deal with it.
All right, let's get a break in, and then when we come back, your phone calls for the congressman here on the Dave Ellswick Show. The number, of course, call 433-0092 or toll-free 800-264-0092. It's the Dave Ellswick Show on KARN.